Hi, everybody. My name's Maggie, and I'm from the Bound Crossing Library, and I'm here today with Ben Ballard, who has been playing Dungeons and Dragons for about 36 years, and he's here today with me to give us some tips on DMing. So we're just going to get right into it. So what is your favorite part about being a Dungeon Master?
For sure, running games. That's the part of it I enjoy most. That's the reason I do it. It's definitely the running games. The sitting down, the social interaction of it is really the part that is the most fun for me.
Do you prefer to create your own adventures or do pre-made ones?
Yes, I prefer to create my own adventures and use pre-made ones.
Why is that?
Well, the creating your own it allows you to have the pieces of the world fit the story you're telling. So there's less retrofitting something else, something someone has written, and more just being able to plan for the characters that are in your game.
Okay. Do you have any media that inspires you, books or television or anything like that?
All kinds of stuff, and it's usually not fantasy genre stuff that I get the most inspiration from. So a lot of old westerns I will use for D&D for story plots. I am an equal opportunity thief of media for things that I run. I don't I have no qualms about borrowing from any place I find a good idea.
What do you think is the hardest thing to prep for as a DM?
It's, for me personally, it's anticipating what the characters are going to want to do. So I always try and create a list of things that the characters might do. I try and create a list from the character's perspective of things that they want or need or interested in, so I can do some amount of predicting where the adventure is going to go, because there's a finite amount of stuff you can prepare at any given time. And so you want your prep work to ideally reflect what's actually going to happen in the game. And when you're especially when you're in a more open world where it's not okay, we have this story, we're doing this, then this, then this, then this, there's a lot of degrees of freedom the characters have. And so if you haven't prepared if what you've prepared is not what they actually end up doing, then you are back to improvising on the spot. You're bringing it. Yep.
How do you handle knowledge rolls and metagame knowledge that your party might have?
I don't. The fact is that players read the rule books. The rule books are there for them to read. Ideally, they have read them. So to me, that knowledge of rules and that metagaming, and even when you have characters who are in different places in the game, I don't worry about that either. If your games are so fragile that your players knowing the rules or your players talking to each other at the table can break your game, that's a sign there's a problem with your preparation and not with your players.
So do you have skill checks? For instance, a player might want to use strength instead of charisma for an intimidation check.
Yeah, I mean, that's to me, one of the greatest DM mantras is don't say no, determine difficulty. So you always want to use what sounds appropriate and what makes sense. The goal is to play and have fun. The goal is not to slavishly follow the rules. So if you're prioritizing strict adherence to the rules over the people having a good time, then in my opinion, you're doing it wrong.
So how do you handle parties that are a combination of new players and experienced players?
I don't, for the most part. The fact is, that's going to happen. You're going to have if we're bringing new people into the game, as we like to do, then that is something that you're not only going to have, that you should expect to have. And it's a good thing because it allows your more experienced players, as a lot of people have pointed out, the person, when somebody teaches somebody else something, the person doing the teaching often learns more than the person being taught. So it helps your more experienced players understand the game better, and it allows the players themselves to bring each other along, which creates party cohesiveness, which is what you want out of a party.
Yeah. Okay.
So I seek out opportunities for it to be a mix of experienced and new players. That's when things work best, in my opinion.
So 3 hours before a session, one player calls in sick, for instance, and they are the only healer in the party. And if they get there, your remaining players might not make their goal. They might all die. How is that something that you handle?
Well, that's always the case. I mean, whether it's because the player of the healer is not there, or the healer gets knocked unconscious in the first round of the first combat, there's a chance that a character is not going to be available when the skills of that character are most needed. And that's part of the game. Now, as far as the planning of the game scheduling part of it, my philosophy has always been, if there's one person missing, we carry on. If there's more than one person missing, then we cancel. But as far as if the adventures that you're putting your party through are so fragile that one character being out of commission can break your game, then that's probably a sign your game needs fixing, not that your players or your party need fixing.
It's out-of-game tensions that maybe bleed into the game that you're
playing. Ideally, I don't. The fact is that I don't routinely run games for kids. So I expect the people at the table to be adults and to interact with one another in an adult manner. I look at it as similarly to work. Look, here at work, we do this thing. We don't bring personal stuff to work. And if we do bring personal stuff to work, then we need to deal with it as quickly as possible. But at the table is not the place to do that. So if you have interplayer tensions creating problems at the table, then what you do is you need to stop. You stop the game at that point, resolve those one way or another, which can be, look, can we put this aside until we're done with the game? Can we just shake hands and make up and be okay right now? Or do we need to stop this game about made up wizards and dragons to deal with real world stuff so that we can get back to playing a game about made up wizards and dragons?
What is one piece of advice that you would give a DM, either new or experienced?
Run games. There's no substitute for running games. Sitting around reading stuff, writing stuff down, inventing new mechanics, making up systems, and creating stats for monsters is all fine. But the way you get good at running games is by running games. So just run a game any way you can, live and in person, with one player, with 8 players, over video if you have to do it that way. If you want to get good at running games, you do that by running games, and there's no substitute for it.
Well, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for being here. There's a lot of good information. If you're looking for more information on the Boise Comic Arts Festival, you can head to our website, which is boisepubliclibrary.org/bcaf. Bye.